Talking specifically about the Greens having a platform that, young people would be interested in. What is interesting as well is just how few of the main political parties seem to care about young people at all. In fact, seem to performatively hate young people. I mean, take the Tories, for example. Take the Tories with their national service plan, essentially not being done because they think it's got any broad utility, but being done as like a red meat policy to get boomers on side. Now, you see the launch thing that BBC News talks about, where they said, well, it would actually, give children and give kids the idea, because I think adults are going to be the ones doing it, even so young people, I guess, to give young people like the kick up the backside they need to get involved in society and get a little bit more in touch with the community or whatever. I'm just like, well, how is it going to do that anyway? And second of all, I mean, the thing that would least make me as a young person in touch with community is if I was being forced to do it. And on top of that, what community? Right? What community? Like, the Tories have destroyed community. Neoliberalism has destroyed community. Neoliberalism has destroyed the social fabric and the social contract, right? Maybe if we rebuilt the social contract, we wouldn't need to try and get people to be forced to do community service. People would want to volunteer. People would want to support their community. I like supporting my community, but I understand for most people, the rot, the poison of cultural neoliberalism has made people very individualistic, has cut away the kind of social role of people engaging with community for the benefit of everybody, because that's not what neoliberalism espouses. That's not market fundamentalism. Like, what financial value can you gain? What market transaction are you engaging in by helping out in your community? You're not actually doing that. So the idea of this community spirit has indeed died already. And yes, they're going to try and force kids to do it. Again, no old people did community service. It's just things that they think young whippersnappers should be doing. When really and truly, the ones who've been doing real civic duty over the last 4 years, it has been young people who are the ones who gave up their future, or gave up their present. They gave up their present and some of the best years of their life staying indoors during the pandemic, specifically to protect the older generation, who now, after voting away all of the security state, all of the welfare state for young people, all of the public sector for young people, who got all of the benefits of the increase in house prices that's now screwing young people out of home ownership, all of the benefits of the public sector sell-off that the young people now have no access to, who benefited from all of the defined benefit pensions that young people are never going to get access to either. Those are the ones who are saying, well, actually, young people, they get too much. They're work shy. They don't work hard enough. They need to go kick up the backside through enforced work from the state. And I'm like, I actually think as a socialist, I like the idea of community wealth building, community ownership, community work, community engagement, right? But it should be something that you do voluntarily. But the state should be able to help facilitate that, putting funding into programs to help youth engagement in community, to build up society, to rebuild that social contract. It would be a good thing, but forcing kids to do that because you've got this false perception that curtain twitching boomers think that young ruffians aren't engaging enough. I'm like, that's the failure of policy. People are a result of the material conditions of the society that they live in. It's not that young people now are specifically bad when they're not. Actually, young people are more switched on than they've ever been in this country. They're more engaged. The world of social media, for example, has connected them to parts of the world they would never have engaged with otherwise. They've been very much a product of the fact that society has let them down after them actually taking a civic duty to protect the older people who now throw it back in their faces, whilst also voting away their own NHS, apparently, which they need as older people, where they have to pay for social care with selling their homes and gifting nothing to the generation who they've taken all the wealth away from, whose very high taxes pay for their lucrative state pension, that now the Tories are looking to quadruple lock, if you can imagine such a thing. Such ridiculous negative campaigning of, well, we don't have to care about young people, they're not going to vote for us, so we're just going to entirely campaign towards the interest of older people. And young people will not only will we not offer them anything, we'll denigrate them with the rest of our policy. And we'll try and sell it as some kind of edifying thing, like literal Arbeitsmachtfrei type bullshit. Like, no, we're going to set the young people free by giving them enforced compulsory work that they must do, or their parents will get fined or whatever. We'll not put them in prison, God no, but we'll fine their parents if they don't do our forced work, our enforced labour. Because we can't imagine a society that we could have created where they would want to freely engage in volunteer work, even though many of them already do, or facilitating apprenticeships, but because the fabric of society has been shut down. They say they want to help young people have a sense of community, to bring themselves into society. I'm like, well, actually the easiest way to benefit like young people, to make young people responsible, to get young people engaged in society, is actually give them a stake in it. a actual stake in the society that's been created. Allow them the security to have a family, the council house for stability. Give them jobs that aren't just gig economy bullshit for Uber Eats with no perks, low pay, unsociable hours, and infrequent hours on 0-hour contracts, for example. But you're going to be your own boss. Nobody wants that. They want the security of employment. The Conservative Party has stripped out of our economy through the casualisation of our workforce and the reduction in trade union representation. These are things you could materially give young people, and they don't want to do any of them. They hate young people. They hate young people, and they will literally use them as a political football to try and get old people to vote for them. Honestly, it's sickening just how much our political class hate young people, and it's not just the Conservative Party either. The Labour Party have clearly decided that they're not worth pandering to. They're not worth engaging with. Sure, they have votes for 16, but that was already policy under the previous administration. But where's the actual policy for young people? It isn't there. They've already said, for example, in terms of tuition fees, English Labour refused to rule out an increase in tuition fees when they want to change the system to make it more fair. They might have even more tuition fees and a bigger rise in tuition fees, which will affect young people the most because, we've got to make a choice between the NHS or tuition fees or whatever it might be, and we've chosen the NHS when they could choose progressive taxation. But again, yet again, they have ruled out inconveniencing the ultra-wealthy, the super-rich, the most wealthiest of the wealthiest, to ensure that they can shit on people who they believe to be electorally insignificant, the poor and the young. They've completely disregarded whether or not they'll vote for them. They want to build a future generation of voters by saying, we'll get you to vote earlier. Current voters, though, current young voters, no. We won't even properly promise you council housing. At least the Greens are promising that. They won't even give them the stability of changing our housing sector to be more council housing orientated. They're just letting the private sector have at it, to be the people who decide where and where the houses get built. That's what Labour are offering to young people. In Scottish Labour, Keziah Dugdale said they're probably going to have to look at reintroducing tuition fees where it's currently at 0 in Scotland. They'll take away everything from young people. Again, they don't see them as an electorally viable part of the future coalition of the Labour Party. They just don't. And they know that the young people will have to vote for them anyway because there's nowhere else for them to go. If you're a young person watching this, please, for the love of God, vote for the Green Party. They at least treat you like a real person who is deserving of policies that are aimed directly at you, rather than taking away your free education, for example, in Scotland, or indeed increasing the cost of regular education in England and Wales. Can't even give us the bare minimum, literally, exactly. And on top of that, they won't even recognise the beliefs of the young people either. They won't even try and bring the beliefs of young people into the political fray. The future of our society, these people will be people who are trans-inclusive, who are progressively minded, who want to see a change in the political consensus. No, political consensus must remain, because these people in red wall constituencies think that everything that you believe is woke, for example. So we want to be anti-woke to win these people over. So whole swathes of young people's beliefs are being completely left at the wayside, even though that's the future of our society. Soon, millennials are going to be the biggest voting demographic. After 5 years of managed decline under the Labour Party, this 60% of Zoomer voters who say they're going to vote for Labour, they're going to really feel like that they've been cheated out of their vote. They're going to feel really hard done by, and they're going to want to send their order back because it's not going to have delivered for them, because they've got nothing. They've got nothing. And all they've got in response to Tories talking about national service, it was just a gimmick. They talk about the failures of society for young people, but they can't do it because they believe the same economic precepts. Why? Why can't young people just have anything? And again, we did have a very short period where young people were being pandered to, specifically in terms of policy, where there was a party that unapologetically fought for the interests of young people in this country. It was called the Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn. There was a reason why young people would flock to Jeremy Corbyn. Finally there was a politician who took our concerns seriously, who treated us not as being students or naive or too young to care, or they're an electoral demographic who, they'll vote for us anyway, but not maybe in large enough numbers, because the increase in the cohort size of the electorate increased under Jeremy Corbyn because people who previously wouldn't vote went to vote as well. That's the problem, is that they were trying to increase the amount of people as part of the electoral base for Labour, a sound electoral strategy, knowing this is where the votes are going to come from later. And that legacy of winning over people who were previously completely politically disengaged, who didn't care about politics, making them care about politics to bring them into the fold of political engagement, has been run roughshod over by a political party that's laid them by the wayside and treated them like Trotskyists and anti-Semites for believing in a political project for once, for having the gall to want to see proper progressive change in this country. And that's the same kind of denigration that young people get. And then people like Aisha Hazarika will hand-wring, go, oh, isn't it terrible how the young people have been hard done by society. Yeah, you got what you wanted. You got what you fucking wanted, Aisha. Like, this is the thing that young people had. We had a political party deliberately campaigned for us because they believed that, well, we can't just say, well, some young people will vote for Labour. They said, well, not enough young people are voting Labour. Not enough young people are supporting progressivism. Not enough young people are putting their cross in at the ballot box. We want to bring these in, go it from like 40% turnout for young people to 60% turnout for young people. Build a consensus where young people are brought with us rather than treated as a given or derided entirely. No, can't have that anymore. Can't even have that anymore. That's the world that we live in, right? There's a picture I shared on Facebook earlier on, specifically in response to somebody talking about where's the policies aimed at young people. This was the world in which policies were aimed at young people. And you know what? I miss this. I genuinely miss this excitement for a political leader. Literally, Ian Dunt saying, well, I can't remember the last time when there was an opposition candidate there was enthusiasm for. This is the man, this is the guy, this is what enthusiasm looks like. It might not win you an election. That's true. The strategy cannot just be, we need to have enthusiasm. It needs to have a political strategy to win. You know, that's where Labour was lacking in 2019, especially, and to a lesser extent in 2017. At the very least, in 2017, loads of seats were won because young people who wouldn't otherwise have voted decided to get politically engaged, and they could have joined the Labour fold for their lifetime, and they have been thrown out into the trash by Keir Starmer's Labour, by the Liberal Democrats, by the Tories, of course they have been, and where is them left for them to go? The SNP in Scotland, potentially, and the Green Party in England and Wales. I'm sorry to go on about this, because I really probably do go on about this too much. I despair for the world that we could have had of young people having civic engagement, and that is never going to come to pass. And the civic engagement that we're going to have pandered to young people is going to be, you'll have to do national service.
That is a disgrace.
Your civic engagement will indeed be compelled to you rather than something that will try and win you over through policy, and that's very sad. Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for membership to just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.